Are the Minnesota Lynx doomed? No. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, also founder and editor of The Next. Make sure you are following everyone you see here every day at thenexthoops.com, at thenexthoops. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter, the show at LockedOnWBB. We give you 24/7, 365 access. And that's what you're going to get today. Lucas Seehafer and I hopped on a call with Cheryl Reeve, head coach, general manager of the Minnesota Lynx. Look, it's not been a great start in Minnesota, right? I'm just going to go through it. I'll give you 0-4 is the record. Defensive rating of 100.8. Offensive rating 90.9. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm getting word that was last year's start, not this year's start. This year they're 0-2, going up against the Indiana Fever Tuesday night. But some key players are not here yet. Some other key players were not there last year. They got Cheryl Reeve to figure it out, right? There are going to be people who want to rush to conclusions, whether that's the WNBA or life. And I just don't understand why it happens with teams that have track records of success, when the person I would argue has a very strong case for the best coach in the history of the WNBA, who was also one executive of the year, has the opportunity to figure it out. The Minnesota Lynx are still waiting on Damiras Dantas to come back from injury. Kayla McBride to come from overseas. Kayla McBride, by the way, was as good as advertised in her first year with the Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota Lynx began 0-4. They ended the season 22-10. How there's panic 2 games in, I don't get it. Sylvia Fowles had 6 win shares last year. She's been below her customary production through 2 games. It's a long way to go. You got to feed still, and so they have to figure out ways to do that. Kayla McBride was second on this team in win shares last year. Napheesa Collier was third. Fee hopes to play this year. She's pregnant. Congratulations, obviously, mazel tov to Fee. And then she plans to return. I'm certainly not putting anything past Napheesa Collier to not just come back, but come back at the level she was. That's a lot of key pieces before you even get into the Minnesota Lynx figuring out point guard. So, we'll get into it. And, Lucas had some really interesting questions for Cheryl. I talked to her as well. But the Minnesota Lynx have been the rock, the Liberty, the WNBA. Yes, Liberty could only wish, given some of their history, were built on. They have not won fewer than 18 games in any season since 2011, except 2020, where it was a shortened season and they went 14-8. They made the playoffs every year. Every year. That may not seem like a big deal in a league of 12 where 8 made the playoffs, but look around. Show me some other teams that keep doing that. Show me some other teams with a playoff streak dating back to 2011. This team, we'll see. They might not figure it out. At some point, dynasties come to an end, right? At some point, I just feel like I went through this with the college basketball season. Oh, UConn is dead and ruined, and certainly will never be able to figure out the point guard position, and their offense cannot possibly function. I have this distant memory of a few weeks ago of covering UConn in the Final Four in the national championship game. Maybe Minnesota won't figure it out. This is a tough league. If they struggle against Indiana tonight, maybe we're starting to have a different conversation. Indiana, some really interesting and good early signs, by the way. Destiny Henderson is going to be a real find for them. You got to love how effectively Queen Egbo has been able to perform at both ends. Melissa Smith is as advertised. I continue to think Emily Enschler is going to be the most important player that they got in this draft. So we'll see. It's going to be a tough one tonight. They're all tough. Indiana and Atlanta are not walkovers, even though I don't expect either of them to make the playoffs. But the Minnesota Lynx have the best center in the history of the league on their team. They have in Jessica Shepard, a 25-year-old, finally healthy, finally able to show the full measure of what she's able to do. And I love the shape of Shepard's game. By the way, she's shooting 42% from three, 42.9, so essentially 43. I've been telling you, those who have been following for a long time know I've been talking about Jessica Shepard since she was a freshman at Nebraska. So this is a very difficult moment. I get that for the Minnesota Lynx. There are people who are looking to bury them in the same way that there are people willing to say, and I feel stronger about this, that the Las Vegas Aces are going to win a title for sure on the strength of being 2-0. There's a lot to like about what the Aces have done so far. We'll see. LA's 2-0. Minnesota's 0-2. Who are you taking to have a better record at the end of the year? There are 36 games in this one. 36. So we'll get you over to Cheryl in a sec. But first, our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year in WNBA odds, Major League Baseball, the fights, the NBA, you name it. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And now, here's Cheryl.
Thinking?
Yes. I guess what's your reaction to the game in general?
Clearly we aren't playing well. That cannot be an understatement, maybe. We've got some players that are better players than what we've seen. And so your only choice is to, as coaches, find a way to help. And so what I'm thinking is we got to go watch video. We got to go, okay, what can we give them that can help them, and stick with it, right? It's 36 game season. Probably a little rougher than what we thought it would be offensively. So we got to figure it out.
And was Syl struggling with something? She get hit in the face?
Yeah, early in the game. I don't think that. While it hurt her, I don't think that impacted the game for her.
You basically went with a lineup with 4 reserves and Jess in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And got some ball movement, some reversal of the ball.
Yeah.
We got some things going. You got within 8 with, I think, 146 left.
Yeah.
And Achanwa got hurt. Did you consider putting Sil back in for a final push, or what was your thinking?
Not at all. Because we fouled, if I'm not mistaken, we fouled the 3-baller. And so 8, but not, not with the ball type of thing. And it just, chasing a game like that isn't fair to Sil. That group that played with some energy and some life. It's the same thing we saw in the preseason game. It's reserves that are doing it. And we gotta look at everything right now.
Coach, you mentioned kind of, watching film and that it's still early in the season and whatnot. But when you're going to look at that film, what goes into the decision between, okay, we need to make, this change, or, how much is it just sticking with the plan and just kind of writing it out, and how much of it is like making changes?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it, like you said, but as we share with them, I sure would like for them to try to do what they're being asked to do before we go and change anything, because it's hard to know. And they're just, right now they're, when we're together and we're practicing and we're prepping, and they're saying, all the right things, and frankly, doing all the right things. And then we get into the game and it's not happening. And, just basics, some really basic things. And, I just want to make sure that we are playing with a pace and with a passion, that we're seeing that's only part of the game. And it's hard to win in this league. And it's really hard if you don't bring that level of energy and intensity that it takes to win possessions. I'm not talking about win the game, just win possessions. And we talk about this ad nauseum. And I don't know if it's like, if they think that they're sprinting the floor, and we don't sprint either direction. It's not like we go one direction and not the other. We don't either direction. And it's so, you just keep showing video, keep asking them to, to do the things that, that takes to be successful. And whether the challenges, I don't think any of us thought that the beginning of the season was going to be easy in any stretch, but like this is, we got to make sure that when you hit difficult times, we don't want to be a team that falls apart and starts blaming and that sort of thing, because that can happen really quickly, and the chemistry is really false when that happens. The chemistry's got to be real, and I think it is. I like the way internally it doesn't feel very good. Your home opener, haven't seen our fans in a while. It doesn't feel very good. And so I know how they're feeling. And so I think in terms of how they handled that and staying together, what they were saying in timeouts, that sort of thing, we're in a good place. At some point, it's got to turn.
And my next question was going to be about that chemistry that you alluded to.
Yeah.
Sims was here before, but the team is different than when she was here the first time. And Angel, obviously her first game in over a year with a new team. Milic coming over from Europe. Do you think, maybe some of the struggles are still the players getting used to kind of how everybody plays and kind of how they fit
there's no question about it. Add Von Turner to that, no question about it. And that's not the, where we say that's the reason. I don't like the excuse thing at all. I mean, I think that, does it pose challenges when you're playing against a Seattle team or a Washington team that, has a little more rooted in their system and the people that are doing it. And we have to look at how we can simplify and find some success. Like I said, help them. And Sil's getting a lot of attention, and we're still trying to throw it into her type of thing. And we just have to learn how to play, behind Sil. Like, it doesn't have to go into Sil like that every time. It makes it really hard for her. We can use Sil, and her ability to attract attention is a bonus for other players. And, obviously our front line was pretty good. I mean, Jess and Sil were pretty good. Jess has been a bright spot for us early in the season here.
First and foremost, do you have an update on Natalie and what happened to her there at the end of the game?
I didn't see it. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
And then what did you see from Angel in her first, live regular season action?
Same thing you saw.
And last one for me, what did you like and what didn't you like about the guard play, and how would you kind of compare and contrast the first half and the second half?
I don't, it depends on who you count as guards. So I want to say perimeter. I think that we're still not quite understanding what our gifts are and how to use them. Inefficient shots, hard shots, Odyssey's, a player that through her career gets into the paint and she's trying to do difficult things right now. That leads to a great deal of inefficiency. And how do you get in there and not take a bad shot and maybe use that much the way Washington did, but you collapse the defense because we're open on the perimeter. They're not guarding us on the perimeter. And that's also some of the challenges, right? We got to have shot makers. When Von Turner's like, your 3-point shot taker, it's not great for us. No offense to Vonnie, but that's not how she's made her living. So I think our guard plays, we have some ball stopping with guard play. We have inefficient reads, in terms of what shot or pass. And that's where I say we watched a ton of video from the Seattle game going into this game. And obviously games are different, teams are different. I think we got rocked where Washington was a well-oiled machine playing with great pace. And so not getting our stops. We got more stops, obviously, later in the game, which, gives you some momentum. But, we've got a team that runs through their stuff hard. And we don't exactly run through our stuff hard. It's that go through the motion thing. Okay, here's the play. And this is where I'm supposed to go. And there isn't a level of, setting it up, sprinting hard somewhere. If I'm coming off a ball screen, how I come off the ball screen. So it's, if my job was to roll, if my job was to fill behind, my job was to make one more. Just the level of passion that we're doing it, it's not consistent enough to be able to win possessions.
And then we saw Syl start to get the ball a little further away from the basket in the second half. Is that something that you look to do just with the struggles of getting the ball into her deep?
No, it was just Syl. Syl was, I think, maybe trying to create maybe some lanes for them to get to the basket, but that wasn't anything by design that we were getting to in timeouts or anything.
All right, we have one on the Zoom. Howard, go ahead.
Locked on Women's Basketball is brought to you by Built Bar. Summer is coming. It's a beautiful day in New Jersey, finally, and I'm going to be driving up tonight to go be the master of ceremonies for Bard Athletics, my alma mater. How do you think I'm going to get there? I don't mean my car. I don't mean my dash. What's going to be the energy that gets me there and gets me through talking about these incredible athletes all night? Oh, yeah, it's a Built Bar. The Built Bar Puffs. We had banana cream pie come on Saturday. It's Tuesday. We don't have any banana cream pie left in the house. We're going to have to get some more. Built Bar has 100% real chocolate. None of that phony chocolate, that faux chocolate, that pretend chocolate. 4 grams net carbs, 17 grams of protein, about 130 calories. So go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order at Built.com. And tell them Grandma Myrna sent you. Now back to my conversation with Cheryl Reeve, talking about Jessica Shepard and figuring out the point guard position. Hey, Cheryl, thanks for the time. Obviously there's been a lot of conversation preseason through the first 2 games about point guard, but you look at something like Jess coming up with 4 assists. This is a team that last year Fee was second on the team in assists and has made use of a lot of, let's say non-traditional, non-point guard playmakers. And I just wonder whether there is a path, whether you think there is a path, especially given the personnel on this team, to a more efficient offense, as you talked about, going that route, essentially with everyone throwing in.
You're talking about using Jess?
Not just Jess, but just in general, your wings and, using 2 through 4 to be able to facilitate the offense, not just your traditional ones.
Yeah. I think, it's not intentional that we wouldn't use 2 and 3, to pass. If you look at who we have out there, I mean, so to start the game, AP is, probably passing isn't her first thing. Angel is a good passer. I thought recognized, who needs to have the ball. I thought she made some good passes. So it's not necessarily by design. As a matter of fact, I mean, we have wing players, wing actions that we come off of screens that still sets and to make the read to be able to throw it in. So it's not by design that we're trying not to use those guys. So I don't know if that answers or not, but we put a premium on passing, believe it or not, when we were making choices of, who's on this team. I don't know if that's a huge problem as it is just putting the ball in the hole at those 2 positions. When you don't have a clear big 3, life is really hard. And as we know, we have Syl. AP is supposed to be a part of a big 3. And so if she's part of the big 3, which I don't think we have, I think we have a 2. We have 2 players. It's supposed to be AP and Syl. And Syl's getting it done, but we're not getting any help. And AP's just got to stick with it. And she's got to learn what she can and can't do. And it's the difficult stuff that we're just trying to avoid doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. That's it, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Yep.
Hey, so
Hey.
first off, how was your nose? It looked like you took a hit there early in the game. And second of all, how do you kind of assess this game, which is so different from the first half into the second?
The nose is fine. As far as the assessment, I think we need to have a sense of urgency from the start. It's hard coming back from a team like Washington that's constantly moving, that can shoot. And we didn't show up today, and that's kind of depressing. Thinking about all the things that we've been working on, and we got to get better. I think the most important part is making sure we stay together as a team, make sure we treat each other right, of course, but also work on the things that we've been lacking these last 2 games, and that's our defense as well as our offense.
So when you're, obviously these first 2 games haven't exactly gone as you would like, or anybody on the team would have liked, but when you're going in and watching film and kind of assessing how things have gone wrong over the first 2 games, how do you kind of, whether it's looking at yourself or maybe looking at some of your teammates that play similar positions, say like, okay, we have to make these changes, or how much of it is, hey, we did the right thing, the basket just didn't drop, we'll hate the result, but live with the process?
I think it's a combination of both. I think we do really good things in spurts, but when we do bad things, it's really bad, and everybody take turns doing those bad things. And so I think the most important part is just locking in. I think our attention to detail these last 2 games has been minimum at best. So locking in and paying attention to details. And when I do watch film, I think about how can I be better for my teammates. Tonight, I wasn't there defensively. Offensively, we knew what Washington was going to do. They was going to crowd the paint. That's typical. But me being better for my teammates, how can I be better for my teammates is what I'm worried about going into game 3.
So obviously you don't want to be in this position, getting in a hole kind of at the start of the season here, but you also were last season. And last season we saw the pretty epic climb that you guys had out of that hole. What can you take away from last season or lean on from last season, now finding yourself in a familiar spot here?
We definitely don't want to go down that road of last year. We just had that talk in the locker room, Rachel and I, and just trying to figure out what works and be really good at what works and what don't work. How can we be better for each other and making sure we're covering for each other and helping each other out. I don't want to get to game 3 and we still having this conversation about the things that we didn't do in the first 2 games. So hopefully we can watch some film, of course, and really lock in of what we have to take care of.
And I noticed in the second half, you started to come out a little bit more on the perimeter to receive the ball. You mentioned trying to help your teammates a little bit, or struggling to get the ball into you, deep in the paint. Was that something that you did on your own volition? And is that something that maybe we can see more of if nights like tonight happen again?
Cheryl give me the freedom of movement. But like I said, I just try to do what's best for the team. I mean, if they want to sit down there and crawl the paint, then I might as well set some ball screens. Or receive the ball and let them come off and go downhill. But I don't think that's some place I want to live. But if it's going to help my teammates out for the moment, then I'm willing to do that.
So how do you keep everybody together and connected and positive at a time like this?
Just making sure we do small talk. Hey, are you all right? What can you do better? What can I do better for you type thing? But everybody seems like they're good. I don't think we have anybody that's going to stray away from the crowd. But just making sure we constantly talking to each other and checking in on each other, I think is the biggest thing. Make sure nobody gets sidetracked of what we're trying to achieve this year.
When this team starts playing well, what do you think that's going to look like?
It's going to be kind of scary. I think we have really good shooters that's been non-existent these last 2 games. And I got all the hope in the world for them that they're going to have really good games coming up. But we just got to keep that faith alive, making sure we keep talking to them, keep their spirits alive, and let them know, like, hey, it's going to come at some point. We don't know when that's going to be, but don't get discouraged. Don't get down on yourself and be willing to take open shots.
Kind of 2 halves nature of this game, such a difficult first half, and the way you guys kind of responded. How do you assess this outing, particularly the way you guys were able to kind of turn a 23-point game into an 8-point game with 2 minutes left?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it as you have to always come out with that energy, and you have to always play that hard, because every team in this league is really good. You can't come out even for 2 minutes and not play as hard as possible, because as we saw tonight, you'll get yourself into a deficit, and it's really hard to come back.
Jess, I think it's fair to say you're one of the better passers on the team. When you see, like, let's say you have, the ball up top and you entry pass into Syl, like something you did a couple times tonight, is that something that you process? Do you think about making that pass, or does it just kind of naturally happen?
Well, when you have Syl down there, it's pretty easy just to chuck it at the rim, but sometimes I get in trouble for that. But for me, I mean, I grew up playing a guard for most of my life. So I think, I see the floor and I just play instinctually, which, I try and get Syl the ball when she's open.
Just how gratifying is it for you to finally be, at 100%, you're fully past your injury, you're getting all the minutes you want to be able to play, and you're playing really well. Just what has that been like for you after everything that you've been through?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it just speaks to this organization and how they stuck with me through a lot of hard times. They kept me positive the whole time. And I think, that's what has allowed me to get to this point. And, obviously we want to win. So, I just want to do whatever it takes for this team to win, and whatever coach is asking of me now.
And we've seen the ball movement, kind of like Lucas was saying, just has been so different in the first half and the second half, kind of in both games is kind of flipped. What do you think the ball movement does to help Syl specifically?
That's, that's the key to our offense, is you can't stare down Syl, because everyone knows where we want to get the ball. It's not a secret. Syl's debatably the best player in the league. So I think for us, it's important that we get the ball moving, find Syl when she is open, but everyone also look for their own shots.
I mean, as your first game here, you showed you could rebound and pass. Is your comfort with scoring due to playing overseas and getting the ball in your hands a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, when you're coming off 2 years of not playing basketball, going overseas was really important for me, just to be able to get my confidence back, kind of just remember, how I play basketball again. And so I think just carrying that into this season is really important.
Where was the point, or what point in when you were playing overseas this past time, did you stop thinking about your knee and just start thinking about playing?
I think the whole time I was overseas, I never thought about my knee. I think that was also important, just to be able to go over there and play. I was playing 40 minutes a game, which just to be able to do that and, just kind of remind my body, okay, this is what it's like to play a high volume. And yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. Now, make Locked On NBA your second listen every day. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the NBA playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Someday, WNBA. Locked On NBA, your second listen every day. I'm Howard Megdal. So glad you were joining us today. Make sure you're following at The Next Hoops and at Locked On WBB. Every single weekday, we got a show coming to you. Stay tuned tomorrow. Really looking forward to all we've got to bring to you. I'm Howard Megdal, wishing you a wonderful night.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.